Shower from morning. 17 is the high today. Currently we're sitting on 8 here at Newstalk ZB.
New Zealand's home for trusted news and views. The Mike Hosking Breakfast with Bailey's Real Estate. Your local experts across residential, commercial and rural. Newstalk ZB.
Parliamentary box after 8. Andrew Saville, Jason Pine with us. 23 minutes away from 8. The Prime Minister joins us for this Monday morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mike.
Right, so I've got a 1993 Audi 80. 5-speed.
Is this a train me ad or something?
No, it might be because I'm sick of getting the warrant. One of the things your government promised, so I take it into the garage on Friday, and it needs a warrant. Yeah. And one of the things your government promised was you were going to do 12-month warrants. Well, when are you doing it? Because I went in on Friday.
This is going to be one of those conversations.
Exactly.
Like you announced this, and when are you doing it?
Exactly.
I can't tell you. I know we announced it because it's something I'm passionate about. I've got a 1966 Riley Elf, which has done 66,000 miles. I've probably done 1,000 miles in 10 years in it or something. So
is it manual?
Yeah, it's manual. Yeah. So
is it 4-speed?
It's a 4-speed. It's 1,000cc Mini with a boot on the back of it.
Yeah.
It was my first car I had in Christchurch. It was a 62 Riley Elf, which I crashed going to see Amanda one night, or someone reversed into me, got written off, and I got sentimentally attached to it, so I bought another one. But classic car owners actually look after their cars really well. They do relatively few sort of miles, and actually we've got to make it much easier for them.
Yes, exactly.
So it's coming. I just can't tell you. It's like, what's the last thing you were harassing me about was that freeway north, about when's it coming and the 110Ks. It'll come, I promise.
My 18-year-old was driving home from the country over the weekend, and she called us, FaceTimed us, and she said, "Hey, do you realise it's now 110 Ks on the road?" And we said, "Yes." "How long have you been on it?" And she goes, "It's just started to 110. I said, "Let's stay on the phone call and watch it go
5 seconds later,
and watch it go back to 100. And she said, "Why did they do that?" And I said, "Very good question."
The Mike Hosking Memorial motorway north.
So why can't
you got to use 3 metres of it, apparently.
Exactly. Yeah. So why can't you tell me when you're doing the 12-month warrants?
I tell you what, I will get out of this interview.
You just don't. It is coming at some point.
Oh, no, we've announced it. No, it's all done. It's just I can't remember when it's coming in.
But it is coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. There is like a gazillion. I go to all these Britain Euro classic car shows from time to time when I get a free moment. And honestly, these guys look after these cars brilliantly. They don't need all this hassle that they could be getting.
Precisely. The Blue Bridge thing, how seriously did you guys consider using them instead of a ferry?
We looked at a range of different options, but ultimately you need to have a solution that we can rely on. You've got to think of the Cook Strait as a continuation of State Highway 1, and you need certainty of supply on the Strait, and as a result, that's why we went the way we did. Okay,
the EU deal around, I'm reading about deforestation, these new rules for the EU. So everything we send to the EU under this FTA has a deforestation tag to it, and we've got to show that we didn't deforest the country by growing our cows and our sheep and our trees. One, why do we sign up to that? And two, how problematic is that going to be, do you think?
Well, look, I don't think it's problematic. I mean, we've got a third of this country in the DOCA state, right? I mean, there's very few countries that would have that much wildlife protection and biodiversity that we've got in this country. I was a bit frustrated last week because essentially, the reality is there is no doubt about it. I've looked at the numbers. We are the most carbon efficient, for example, farmers in the world, right? And everyone's been saying, you got to shut down farming because it's going, the reality is no, we can actually grow farming. We can increase production. We have this incredible science, technology, innovation. This is not just ideas. These are real projects that are going to make a big difference on that, make our farmers more productive, make us a lot more innovation. So I reckon any more farming in New Zealand is good for the world because it actually lowers greenhouse gas emissions. Is the way to think about it. Right. And we've got to do a bit of reprogramming around that.
So you don't think it's going to be a problem is my main concern?
No, we'll make sure we're compliant. But I think New Zealand has done a great job. Farming in itself is coming down. We're actually going to put limits on the forestation. We've got a lot of farm to forest conversions, as you know. That's changed the complexion of our rural communities. It's an externality that's not helping, and as a result, we're going to make some changes around what you can and can't do on the land.
Last week's announcement on the lack of gas, how alarmed do you become each time they say this?
Well, I think this is one of the great tragedies of New Zealand. We honestly have abundant natural resources, and we should not have an energy problem. And the reality is this, at 87%, we're a top 10 country on renewables. We want to double that because we're going to need it with data centres and other things. But you've got to face up to the reality is we are going to need gas for several decades to go, because you need that certainty of supply. The oil and gas ban from 2018 was one of the dumbest, most insanest moves I've seen happen, where they didn't think through the second and third order consequences of that. And the consequences, we are the only country I'm aware of on the world that's actually transitioning from gas to coal. And coal is twice as bad as gas. So what's happened, because unfortunately that decision, when you're a global investor sitting in Canada or wherever you are in the world with investments here in New Zealand around gas, and you put a chilling effect into the investment community internationally, that's why we've put $200 million aside so we can co-invest to encourage those investors to come back into New Zealand and to keep looking for domestic pools of gas, which we desperately need.
We had Shane Jones on the program last week on this very subject. He said he's off to Singapore to talk to some people. So there is some genuine interest in looking if we can, help out.
And we're going to reverse the oil and gas ban, but the problem that has happened is, again, it's very easy to do the bumper sticker and the slogans, but you actually have to think through the second and third, what comes next. And what came next was investors go, jeepers, I don't want to invest in New Zealand. They're going to lay down millions of dollars, billions of, hundreds of millions of dollars of capital to do exploration, and then all of a sudden, the rules change and their assets are stranded. So that's why we're having to make sure that we reassure them that actually if they come here and they reinvest again, under, either through legislation or through the government co-investment model, we've got support that we can signal that this is actually important. We want you to do this stuff.
So, see, they started last week a battery project at Huntly, and when that battery is completed, and then they're going to double that battery, and that takes us out to 2035, those two batteries as a form of storage will do the equivalent for 2 hours of 120,000 houses, right?
Yeah.
So as good as that may be on a renewable story, it's not much power.
Yeah.
And when you talk about data centres and stuff, there was a deal in North Carolina last week for $10 billion.
Yeah. It's massive.
And so we don't have the power for any of this. So you can talk data centres till you're blue in the face.
No, but we
still can't get TY running it full.
Yeah, but we do have abundant natural resources, and there shouldn't be a reason why.
Yeah, but
we
that's
can't
years
make that
away,
work.
though.
Yeah, I get it, but equally there is dumb stuff that's been going on. Like if you go down to Makara, which is just out of Wellington, there's 130,000 houses that are actually provided by wind. And the bottom line there is that took 8 years to consent and 2 years to build. That should be a 1 year consenting, 2 year build. You get the benefit in 3 years, and we've got a hell of a lot of places we could do a lot more of that stuff.
Okay.
The solar stuff's coming on board really fast. A lot are funded by British investors, for example.
Good.
And you can still put.
Do
your
you
sheep
honestly believe, heart of hearts, that we will get to a renewable story in some way, shape, or form that will serve it? In other words, the green vision. I just increasingly don't see. We've got to be so renewable, and it's so unreliable.
No. I this is the point I'm trying to make, is that we're already in the top 10 countries of the 195 in the world on renewables. We're at 85, 87%. Any other world leader I talk to is nowhere near that, right? They're at 20%, 40% if you're lucky. So let's be clear, we've got to double that, and we can, because we've got lots of space, and that's all good. But we're going to need gas. We need some certainty of supply. We're also looking at geothermal, whether we can go deeper to get more productivity out of that asset, and that's technology Kiwi engineers invented 60 years ago, and there's more that we could do there. It'd be very interesting, I think, down the road. I wouldn't be surprised if we start having conversations around fusion technology as well.
These 18 and 19-year-olds, I haven't asked this for a couple of weeks, but in the budget you said 18 or 19-year-olds who aren't working are going to be somehow supported by their parents.
Yep.
And when is that being announced? As in, what do you need to earn as a parent before you're triggered versus not triggered?
I can't give you again a time frame on when what month that is coming through.
Haven't you made your decision though?
Well, we have. I mean, the bottom line is we've just got to set thresholds. But the point very clearly is that I'm trying to reprogram our young people under 25 to say you just can't go to school and you can't just go
I get the theory, but there'll be parents out there going, well, I own 110,000 versus 95,000. I'd kind of like to know where we're at on that. And so what's is this a game or something?
No, we just want to make sure that we really get that setting right, and it's quite complex, because there will also be scenarios where you've also got individuals that have fallen, that their family relationship is such that doesn't work.
Right.
So we've got to get that straight as well. But the detail is coming, but I can't give you the
Michael Forbes thing, which I hesitate to even raise, because who the hell saw that coming? Are there things that are unfolding in your office and in Parliament generally that you're learning from? Is there something that's come out of this that you missed? Is there a red flag you should have seen? Is there anything at all or not?
No, the problem is that we actually have followed all of the processes really well, and we've actually been a real stickler for that since it's been important to me. It's the stuff that I believe is important. But the problem is, in this case, the individual was vetted They then worked for a minister. We worked for a minister. They were vetted. They then had this incident happened after that, and the question is, well, is there any other vetting that we should have done if they changed jobs coming out of the minister's office into my office? Is there any other cross-agency vetting that could have been done?
Yeah.
So really, it's an incredible case where we've done everything that's built up in Parliament and everything that you've learned about hiring staff in the Beehive, who actually work for the DIA, but as their employer, we've got to go back through all those processes and say, is there anything else we need to add?
But there's nothing obvious you've learned.
No, there isn't. No, there isn't. But it's just like, how could this happen, and how did we? Yeah. I think there's some good questions around: are the agencies talking enough to each other? How would police and DIA interrelate? Is there anything we should do in terms of resetting and doing some more vetting? There's a bunch of stuff like that.
Okay.
But again, clearly unacceptable behaviour, we moved as fast as we could. I think we handled it very well, but just still, for the women that were impacted by that, pretty big deal.
All right, mate. Nice to see you.
Good to see you too.
Christopher Luxon, Prime Minister, 13 to 8.
Want to win a smoko shout for your automotive team? Head to maito.nz, answer a couple of questions, and you're in to win. If you have a Maito apprentice on board, you could also win a free billboard promoting your company. It's our way of showing support for the automotive teams that keep Kiwis moving. And an extra thanks to those training the industry's next generation. Search Maito to fill out the survey and enter now. Terms and conditions apply.